Good afternoon and welcome to the Madison County Planning of the Pinwheels for Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention. This event is to kick off child abuse prevention for our county. My name is Karen Blessinger and I'm the local office director for the Department of Child Services here. Child abuse prevention is extremely important to our department and community. Our office had the fourth largest rate of children in need of services cases for January of this year. This alone shows you that the issue of abuse and neglect happens within this county and that it is real. Our local county department served almost 900 children in January alone. These were children either in their homes through an informal adjustment, an in-home CHINS case, or an out-of-home CHINS case. Through prevention awareness and events, we hope to spread awareness so that families can get help and services they need prior to abuse or neglect happening. This is essential to children's overall well-being, and children have better outcomes if they're raised in homes where abuse and neglect does not occur. There are several prevention programs in our own community that can help families that may be at high risk for abuse and neglect. These include, but are not limited to, Safe Sleep, Community Partners, Project Hope, and Healthy Families. There are several ways you can help prevent abuse and neglect, help those that have been abused or neglected, as well as raise awareness. You have started this by attending this event today. You can also get to know your neighbors. Help families you know in difficult times. Help babysit, give them transportation somewhere, or just lend a listening ear. You can also refer them to services or contact 211 to find services available in our area. Finally, you can also help children that we do serve by becoming a foster parent or CASA volunteer. Again, I want to thank you for coming out today and supporting this great event. And I'd like to introduce Amanda Capes from our department's foster care unit, who's going to discuss fostering children with the Department of Child Services.
Good afternoon. My name is Amanda Capes, and I am the supervisor of the Foster Care and Relative Support Unit here in Madison County with DCS. We work with foster families, adoptive families, and relative caregivers. Our team works hard every day supporting these wonderful families who are caring for the children in our community who have been abused and neglected. Karen mentioned that during the month of January, there were 900 children involved in Madison County. 900. Of these 900, 45% were able to stay safely in their home through supportive community services, formal intervention and services, supervision by DCS, CASA, and the courts. However, nearly 500 children are placed in out-of-home care. These 500 children are placed with relatives and foster families. It's important to note, however, that nearly 200 of these children are placed with a family outside of our county. They've been removed from their home, and now they've been removed from their school, their friends, and their community. So, local foster families are needed. I often wish that the trauma experienced by neglect could be lessened. Could it be lessened some when siblings can stay together, or when they can stay in their own school? We do struggle to meet these constants sometimes because we do not have enough foster families. It is unfortunate, but we need more families excuse me, who can provide a safe, loving, and nurturing environment to these children. Our foster families take on many roles, and they come from many backgrounds. Some foster families work in schools, they work in hospitals, and some are retired. Some of our foster families have raised their own children, maybe their grandchildren, but some of our foster families have never parented. But all of our families do prove to become amazing advocates for the children who call their family and their home. I asked one of our seasoned foster parents, Pam Owens, I asked her a very simple question. Why do you foster? So I want to read you part of her response. This is what Pam says. Pam says, my desire to foster the children who just want to feel safe began very blindly. She says, I've got this. I'm already raising my kids. It can't be that different. How different is it? Pam says, we take children in that may be sick, injured, abandoned, diagnosed, undiagnosed, and we're able to assist them in their recovery. We're able to make them feel more confident and happy. Her first placement was an eye-opening as the simplest task of laundry made her cry. The children had never seen a washer before, and they thought Febreze is what cleaned clothes. And those children went home 10 days later. Pam says that children are a beautiful gift, and sometimes it truly does take a village to raise a child. The bonus is when the biological family is able to succeed on their journey and they've accepted the foster parent assistance in caring for the kids. Pam says, this is her words to the biological families. I appreciate knowing your children and knowing you. And Pam's here today, so thank you, Pam. And she's fostered a number of children for our county. So I appreciate her very often. I've called Pam in the middle of the night myself. My whole team probably has. Probably many of the caseworkers have been to Pam's home, so we really do appreciate you. So I knew early in my career with DCS that I wanted to work with foster families. I wanted to directly help these families who were taking care of the children we were involved with. Many years ago, when I first began working with DCS, I was given a poem. It was printed on a magnet and it hung on my filing cabinet, and I don't know who it came from, but it's the story of the starfish. And I often think of our staff, our community volunteers, and our foster families like the boy who saves the starfish. So I have the poem, but I won't read it all to you, but it's the story of a boy who's walking along the beach, and the starfish are there, and if he doesn't throw them back in, they're going to die. And someone says, there's hundreds who cannot make a difference. And he picks up one, and he says, I made a difference to that one. So I ask you all, can you make a difference, even to just one? Could you become a foster parent? Or do you know who in your community can positively and directly make a difference, even for just one of those 900 children? We have a flyer that we give to families who are interested in foster care. I do have some with me today, and so does Chevis, my coworker. And it simply reads, change a life, a child and your own. Thank you. I'd like to introduce Rodney Cumming, our county prosecutor. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. Really very happy to be here today to participate in this awareness of Child Abuse Month. If you see the kind of things that you see in the business that we are involved in, it breaks your heart to see the kind of things that so many kids have to go through. If you look at, when you have the kind of community that has some of the challenges that we face, like poverty and drug abuse, that filters down to the kids. Often, you know, having grown up in a family that was very dysfunctional and living in foster care myself, living at the Brandenburg home when I was a child out on the Mounds Road complex, I understand what poverty and drugs can do to a family. And the children are the ones, if there's any money at all that families have, often it's going for the cigarettes and drugs, and that gets to the kids last, and they're the ones that take the brunt of the abuse, and they're the kids that don't have the kind of nurturing that they need, that many of us we don't appreciate that we had for ourselves. So it's important to report. Please call. There's an attitude among a lot of people, I don't want to get involved in somebody else's issues. Make a call. Call the police. One of the other real challenges we face in this community is molestation. And if you look at the kind of numbers that we have, and all you have to do is read the paper, and I think there was an editorial in the Herald Bulletin this week about what a scourge molestation is becoming in our community. And when you see these kind of things, we have a great relationship in the law enforcement community with the prosecutor's office, the police, and a relatively new program called Kids Talk, and I see Denise and some of her staff here today. It is such an important issue. And I was reading some statistics this week. As many as 20 million kids in this country are being victimized. 20 million. Most of those people who are committing those offenses are male. They're not all male, but most of them are male. And often, from my observation, it's usually a male who's in the house that's not the biological parent of the children. The key to correcting this problem is reporting. Making those kids feel that it's okay to report. oftentimes they're living in those houses, so they're afraid that they're going to be punished if they do those things. We have to make them feel that it's the right thing to do. It's good for them to do that, and they report it and tell somebody, some adult, whether it's a teacher. Reporting is the most important component to helping cure these kind of problems, to helping us prosecute these perpetrators who prey on these young children. Make them feel it's okay. And when you see something or you hear something, you call the police. There's an incredible collaboration that we have between the law enforcement community, the prosecutor's office, the investigators, and these trained interviewers from Aspire. I would challenge to find it anywhere else. Would you agree, Denise? It's pretty incredible, isn't it? And it's part of the reasons why we're having so many of those kind of prosecutions right now. We're working together very well, but we need you to help us as well. You see something that's not right, it's okay to call the police, even if it's nothing. I would rather that you call the police and they find out that there's nothing to it than to let some child continue to live in an environment like that. Please help us help the children in this community. Annette.
Hi, thank you everyone for coming today. My name is Annette Craycraft and I'm the Executive Director of East Central Indiana CASA. And today we've all come together to promote awareness about child abuse prevention within our community because it is a critical issue, and as we know, education is the most important tool for swift intervention to help break the cycle of abuse. However, what do we do as a community when our efforts fail a child and an incident cannot be prevented or intervention did not occur in a timely manner? Through no fault of their own, these children quickly become part of a massive child welfare and court system. Being in the middle of a court case as a child can be extremely terrifying, as I'm sure you can imagine, no matter what the age. It's really scary for the child to be there and not know what's going on day to day. And that's where a child advocate steps in. CASA volunteers are the child's voice in a court. A CASA volunteer champions the best interest of abused and neglected children, and they help assure abused and neglected children move into safe and permanent homes where we hope they will thrive. These children need a friend through this process, and they also deserve to have their voices heard. In recent years, as was mentioned earlier, actually here recently, Madison County's been fourth in the most amount of reported cases in the state of Indiana, but we're also ranked fifth in substantiated cases of child abuse and neglect. And last year, my program saw nearly 1,100 cases assigned to our agency, and that number is astronomical compared to what we've had in recent years. It's a huge, like I said, significant increase, and the system is overflowing, and we're faced with fewer and fewer resources in this community to help us serve these children. We need your help to do this, and not only do we all need your help, but the children need your help. We need you to stand up for a child, and my agency needs your help in becoming a CASA volunteer or encouraging someone you know to be a volunteer. By doing so, you will ensure the voices are heard and they don't feel like they're lost in that massive system. Please consider volunteering today, or most of you here are our best tool of PR and marketing. Let someone know about the work that we do and let them know how they can get involved. We talk about today how to intervene and how to create awareness for child abuse and prevent incidents from happening, but sometimes once that incident happens, everyone feels lost and they're not sure what they can do. And becoming a CASA volunteer or child advocate is one way you can help that child after they've suffered from abuse. These children are our most vulnerable children in our community, and together we can all break the cycle of abuse. I thank all of you for coming out today, and we appreciate your support for this important cause. And I want to introduce Jama Donovan now, who's the director of our local Children's Bureau office.
Hello, everybody. As Rodney talked earlier about the importance of reporting, I just wanted, if you guys didn't get the magnet when you came in, our committee had magnets put together, so it has the reporting number for the hotline. So feel free to take that, and we also have information on our prevention program, Community Partners for Child Safety, that's in all 92 counties in the state of Indiana. That focuses on connecting and linking families to services to help keep them from entering the Department of Child Services. Each April, we celebrate Child Abuse Prevention Month as a time to acknowledge the importance of families and communities to prevent child abuse and neglect and to promote the social and emotional well-being of children and families. The pinwheel is our national symbol of prevention. It was chosen because it represents a happy, carefree childhood that we wish for all children. These pinwheels represent the hope that we have for the 84,000 plus infants born in the state of Indiana, and creates a legacy to honor those children who have unfortunately lost their lives due to child abuse and neglect. All over our nation, groups like ours are planting these pinwheel gardens to represent our commitment to creating healthy communities for our children. Prevention services are happening in our community. I know Karen had touched on a few of those that we have. And I think it's important to know that we hear these horrific stories about the families that some of you work with. We're reading the newspaper, but it's also to know that we have a lot of this outreach in our area to help support families and help parents become the best parents that they can be. Children's Bureau is offering safe sleep classes for families with children under the age of 1, and that teaches safe sleeping practices. It talks about the period of purple crying, which a child cries continually, and it's hard to be able to calm that child. And we teach families, what do you do in those situations, so that it doesn't turn into a shaken infant syndrome or the child becoming harmed. We also talked about Project Safe Place, which Benny Santiago and his group create a program that helps support kids 14 and up that come from hard home lives, and this program helps teach them ways to cope and have those mentors and those support people in their lives. So that's another great program that we have here in Madison County. We also have a Stewards of Children program that talks about preventing sexual abuse in young children in Madison County. That program is provided monthly in our area, and I always encourage people, if you've not been through it, go through that program. It really gives you that eye-opening facts on how do I protect young children. And I think a lot of people have that misconception that it's some man in a little white van somewhere who's going to abduct my child and molest my child, but it's usually people that you trust, and you need to know what those warning signs are and be able to put those practices in place to protect your children. So we had a group that came in and said, hey, we have a homeschooling group, and we're really curious about how we can get this education out. So we contacted them, and they came and did that training. So if you know of churches, groups, anybody that could get connected, they do that program once a month. We also, a collaboration of like 41 partners, will be having a summer safety fair this June 15th. And it's going to touch on everything that's safety related for all kids in Madison County. We'll be doing that at the Mounds Mall. It'll be from 4 to 7, so there'll be more information coming out. If you're part of an agency, we encourage you to come and be a part of that and do a safety activity for kids. But it's going to be a great resource for families on knowing about these programs and about just safety in general within their home. And finally, you'll see the Pinwheels gardens everywhere. We ran out of signs this year. Hopefully we'll get some more signs next year. We like to have the kickoff here at City Hall. We've got the big banner out there. And so as you leave, we were hoping we could do it outside today, but the weather just did not cooperate. It's not 75 and sunny like I had asked. But so as you leave, there's pinwheels. So please go out to the front and plant your pinwheel garden so we can have that to show that the city of Anderson, Madison County, we support children, and we want every child to have a happy, healthy childhood. And in closing, I always like this quote. It just kind of gives you something to ponder when it comes to discipline in children. When a child hits a child, we call it aggression. When a child hits an adult, we call it hostility. When an adult hits an adult, we call it assault. When an adult hits a child, we call it discipline. This quote just gives you cause to stop and think about how we're teaching our children. And does discipline mean to teach or guide? When a child misbehaves, do we see it as an opportunity to teach and guide or punish? So I appreciate you all coming out and taking a stand for the kids in our community today. And I have the honor of introducing our mayor, Mayor Tom Broderick.
Thank you very much, and I'd like to welcome all of you to Anderson City Hall, and thank you so much for coming out on this very important occasion. I'd like to thank all of the folks that have spoke here on our panel for all they do to collectively help work towards making our community a safer place for our children. As most of us know, a lot of folks in our community are fortunate enough to have had a great childhood thanks to the work of their parents, their grandparents, siblings, friends, teachers, and so forth, and they've had some great times. Unfortunately, we all know that not everyone in our community and elsewhere around our country are so fortunate. Today, the point of this program in part is to recognize the need to continue to work as individuals and as a community to ensure that our children do have opportunities such as those who are more fortunate. I've already got my pinwheel. These pinwheels, as has been pointed out, are not just a national symbol, but they are given because we all remember as we grew up as children, playing with them and having fun and sort of the childlike things that go on in our lives, that it's a reminder, it's each one of these that you see, that there are children out there who, again, do not have that type of childhood. And these are reminders of what we want for all of those children. And we want all of these children to have the type of future and opportunities that they should, because they, in fact, of course, are our future. When our children don't have opportunities, as we're talking about, for healthy growth and development, then we put not only them, but of course our own future society at risk. Every day needs to be a day to call to action for all of those that are here and those that aren't, to provide the opportunities to our children for happy and healthy lives. It is with these concerns and truths that I'm proud to issue the following proclamation from the city that I would like to read and then present. It's a mayoral proclamation. It says, whereas we have a responsibility as individuals, neighbors, and citizens of Anderson, Madison County to help create healthy, safe, and nurturing experiences for children, and whereas safe and healthy childhoods produce confident and successful adults, and whereas child abuse and neglect often occur when people find themselves in stressful situations without community resources and appropriate coping skills, and whereas the majority of child abuse cases stem from situations and conditions that are preventable in an engaged and supportive community, and whereas child abuse and neglect can be reduced by ensuring every family has the support and tools they need to raise their children in a healthy environment, and whereas it is recognized that no one person can ever do everything, but that everyone can do something, and together we can create change for the better, and whereas effective prevention programs succeed because of partnerships among agencies, schools, faith communities, civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community, and whereas displaying a pinwheel or planting a pinwheel garden in April will serve as a positive reminder that together we can prevent child abuse and keep children safe. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Thomas Broderick, do hereby proclaim April 26 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Anderson, Madison County, and I urge all citizens to engage in activities that strengthen families and communities to provide the optimal environment for children to learn, grow, and thrive, so that all children have the benefit of happy, healthy, and safe childhood. All entered this day. Thank you so very much for coming. Thank you.